This is about words, oaths, vows, and the things that people say. And there could probably be more to add to this later. Jesus said, above all else, swear no oaths. And it's a bit of a meme for politicians or people that are a part of the government or in some high position in society to swear on the Bible. And they say that they will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but you know that they're liars. But here's another thing. They mix truth with lies, and you have to figure out what's truth and what's lies. It's kind of a game. So you probably noticed that a lot of women are snared by evil in real life. You will see the way people fall apart and degrade, especially after marriage. And I'm not going to get into all of that marriage trap stuff, but it is a trap because most people do weddings. It's a Masonic ritual that involves an inverted priest. You have the bride wearing white and the groom wearing black, and the priest who is inverted, and in real life it's always going to be women marrying Freemartins, and they swear a vow. They take their wedding vow, and the words you say bind you. And I know a lot of deeply, severely depressed women that they don't usually want to come out and say it, but they deeply regret swearing those vows, but something is binding them and preventing them from telling the truth sometimes. Sometimes they will confide, especially when they're drunk, that they regret getting married, they regret having children with their husband. And a lot of women know the big secret about hermaphrodites, and they're a part of it. When they swear an oath that they're going to marry a Freemartin, that's when they get trapped. And that's why Jesus says swear no oaths. You'll notice in a lot of songs, especially like bands, like heavy metal bands or even just pop songs on the radio, their lyrics will start bashing on Jesus, or the lyrics will be about how the singer rejects Jesus Christ. You can easily find clips of these, especially during live performances. Now, I don't know how true this is, but someone did a bit of a kind of a soft experiment where they would ask people who enjoyed these bands, they would ask if they could recite the lyrics to their songs off the top of their head. I'm sure diehard fans would do that, they would know it by heart, but some of the more casual listeners didn't necessarily have the songs memorized, so there's that variability. But when the music would play, and when the band listeners, music lovers, would hear the music being played, and they could just start singing along. So they knew the lyrics in their heart. They couldn't consciously think about them, but when they started singing, they would just start spitting out all the lyrics, including the ones about denying Jesus Christ. And you'll notice that these songs never bash on Odin or Zeus or Muhammad or Ganesh. Like these songs only bash on Jesus. And it shows a centipede's dilemma. You know the story about the centipede, and when he's asked, hey centipede, how do you walk? And the centipede can't explain in words how he walks. He can only demonstrate it, but when asked directly, he draws a blank. Of course, the solution to that is he walks with a waveform, so if you watch a centipede in action, you just see that their legs form waves, but that's not really a part of the story, and that's just me being nitpicky. But anyhow, you have to be careful with the things you say, and when we're angry, it's easy to say something you regret, so that'll wrap this up. Just a few little whatever things. Alright, one thing is that being recognized is highly dependent on context and how you're posed, what you're wearing, what you're holding in your hands, and just stuff like that. For instance, if you have a job where you wear a particular outfit and you carry a clipboard, well, like say you're going to go to a store to check out some merchandise display and you have to talk to the managers. When you do this a lot, the managers will recognize you based on what you're wearing and the fact that you're coming to talk to them about merchandise displays and the fact that you have a clipboard. But when you're wearing plain clothes and you're just an ordinary shopper, the managers will overlook you like they don't even see your face. Another thing is if you have another job where you're just going to be in the same place for 8 hours and you're wearing a certain outfit, and there's a particular customer or patron that interacts with you while you're at your job a lot. If you encounter them on the street, but you're not wearing your work outfit and you're not doing your job, you're just out on the street, the customer that you often interact with is probably not going to recognize you. They'll just not notice that you're there. And there's a story about Marilyn Monroe. I kind of forgot how it went, but it might have been canned because most of these things are. But basically there was just an MTF that passes well on the street being interviewed in front of a camera, and the MTF goes, "Oh, I know Marilyn Monroe. You want to see her?" And the interviewer goes, "Yeah, I want to see Marilyn Monroe." And then the MTF on the street poses differently and starts talking a certain way, revealing that she was Marilyn Monroe the whole time. It's just that now that she is putting on the official act and becoming the character. That's also another interesting thing. Maybe not a lot of people would probably pay attention to acting and all of the subtleties like their posturing and what they do with their arms and how they pose and how they talk. But tiny subtle things like that are actually very significant even if we don't give it a lot of conscious thought. So that's, I guess, something to think about. A lot of famous people are really fictional characters, and even a latex mask can be produced fairly cheaply and be very convincing. And you'll probably know a lot about a lot of famous people that just seem so over the top and extravagant and not like an ordinary person you'd meet on the street. And you probably know people in your life and your family, people that you go to work with that are always putting on an act. And yeah, there's quite a lot of those people, really. And some of them are not very good actors. They keep slipping up. And there's that mask falling off thing again. Of course, in this context, when I'm talking about masks, I'm not talking about the kind that you're forced to wear to go to the store or something, but, the fake persona that people put on every day. And that also calls to mind the expression of, "I'm putting on my face," when an MTF wouldn't be caught dead without their makeup on. And again, I know people like that in real life, where, I know some that actually have, makeup tattooed on. Yeah, they'll run away if they're not wearing their makeup. They won't come out if they're not wearing their makeup. It's pretty sad and pathetic, but it's also hard to feel sorry for them. Maybe you should just quit being fake, huh? Well, they can't do that. I don't really have anything major and huge to say, so I'm just gonna come up with a bunch of little things and see where that branches off to, and I should probably do this more often, 'cause why not? It gives me something to do. That's interesting. I hope. I guess an important lesson I've learned in my life, I can't remember all of my important lessons in my life, but whatever, is planning things out is overrated. You should be prepared and have an outline of the various situations that could unfold for whatever you plan to do, but really you should only have minimal planning and just wing it and be prepared for anything that could go wrong or take an unexpected turn, and maybe something really cool will happen. Isn't that optimistic? Also, I'm just gonna jump around from various topics, because why not? It's my talk and I can do what I want, I suppose. It seems that things are being rendered inaccessible. Now, I don't know a whole lot about what's going on, cause, I just don't really care to find out, but I hear about things or read about things sometimes, some happenings that I'm not actually a part of. The internet's getting more heavily censored, and what else is new? Shocking. Well, the only solution for that is to go back out into real life, and, I can only speculate as to what's going on. Really, this whole current thing with this so-called pandemic, I never saw this coming. It's really quite unexpected, and the George Floyd riots, that was I guess mildly unexpected because it's just strange. I mean, there's a lot of big stories in the news and the media that's just outrage bait, pretty much, but things like the Black Lives Matter or George Floyd riots or Occupy Wall Street, like those, they were pretty major events. They were all staged, and there's more that don't come to mind, but there's only a few of those, really. You know, everybody just kind of wants to be a background actor on the big stage and the big screen in everyone's home. I mean, I guess people still watch TV even if it's on a smartphone, so whatever. Actually, speaking of TV and smartphones, this is just something I've heard. I've heard that smart TVs will sense when there's a smartphone on Wi-Fi nearby, and the smart TV, even if it's being used by a person watching a streaming service, the smart TV will sense the presence of an iPhone and immediately try to hijack whatever the phone's playing. Or maybe that's backwards. Like, it'll try and put the streamed smartphone video on its own screen instead of letting the person watch Netflix or something. It's just something I've heard of. It's not really my problem. But, like, what kind of design is that? That's not smart. I hope more people are losing faith in technology. I can't really say. You know, I can only speculate about what other people are thinking and doing. I don't truly know. Everything's just getting more bullshit. The internet's being more censored. There's more bots and more shills, but there's a few people waking up. You'll probably hear phrases like empty internet, and more random people are going to be commenting on like old music videos or just famous people's vlogs and go, hey, is that like actually a man or a woman? You know, like they're starting to notice. And the sheer amount of women going on testosterone is a huge wake-up. The amount of free Martins trying to live as women is a wake-up. And the reason why Red Lodge Martins hate the Martin to women people so much is because they're letting out the secret. It used to be that I would wonder, like, why do you people care so much about another person choosing to wear a dress and use she, her pronouns? Like, why does it bother you? What do you have at stake? Turns out they have a lot at stake. That's why they're getting so mad. They can't just let somebody else live their life. They're gonna lose their power. And it's kind of funny how just these tiny, tiny things can be so impactful. Just one person deciding to have a different name and different pronouns and wear a dress, that will make Red Lodgers lose their power. And it makes them lose their shit, too. It's pretty funny. Now, about things becoming inaccessible, I can't really say much. It's a bit of a bold claim to make, and as I suggested earlier, I didn't really think this through. I'm just winging it. But, well, you know time's speeding up. Just trying to pretend it's not. Pretending does nothing. And actually, that's another topic I should talk about. This is why it's good to wing it. You find a lot of things along the way when you just wander off pointlessly. Anyway, old media, like really old classic movies and old books, they're crazy long, like plays, stage theater, that used to last all day long, or so I've heard. All day. And books, they used to be like crazy thick. And stuff like that was normal. It's pretty intimidating to imagine a 12-hour play or even a 3-hour movie or a book that's insanely thick. Like, who has time to make that? Who has time to edit it? Who has time to read it? Things have just changed. And I've been hearing more about disc rot. Old electronics are decaying, like they're breaking down. There's a Sega arcade system that's infamous for self-destructing. Not intentionally, but it just did that. Some old plastics, like especially if they're gold, like there are these Transformer toys that have gold-colored plastic, it would disintegrate. But that's a more petty example, but it's an example of things breaking down. And, well, a thing about disc rot is that some CDs manufactured in the 80s are still in good condition, but some Warner Brothers discs, like Blu-rays made in 2008, they're breaking down today. Probably because they're not manufactured very well compared to stuff in the 80s. And here's this thing again about things getting lower quality over time. The price is going up, but the cost of production is going down. Quality control is going down. Things are just, they're shit. They're polished, but like they have a shiny spray paint job, but they're not good. And that's certainly something that will make you not care about the world. That it's just garbage. It's garbage that costs a lot of money. And, then there's like the money inflation stuff. People are just seeing now how much things are breaking down, and the flow of time is also making old video games unable to be played. Hardware in the storage media is breaking down and disintegrating. And yeah, and people don't have time anymore. We have become more slave-like than ever. You might have heard about people decades ago would have some downtime at their job and they would just discreetly write a book or something, when they have nobody to interact with, or they've already taken care of their tasks but they're still on the clock. They might whip out a little notepad and just kind of flesh out some creative thing and refine it and publish it later. Who has time for that anymore? I mean, at least you're not at your job as long. But your money is less value. Even though the number's bigger, the bigger number means nothing because, your rent's going higher, your bills are higher, groceries cost more even though they're lower quality. It's all just, it has to end. And, well, that's a good thing about time speeding up. It's gonna end sooner, I hope. But it's really hard to deal with the time thing. Of all the things going on, the time thing bothers me the most. There's so much to be bothered by, but just the time, it's horrible. But, yeah, I guess it's necessary, or 'cause it is. Well, guess I'll just talk about peer pressure again. Can't remember, but, no, remembering is only useful sometimes. So, you probably heard about 41%. I'm sure that number has increased, where there'll be a whole little internet community of like-minded individuals who are of the same demographic and they have the same desire to go from being a he-him to a she-her. And wearing dresses and pronouns, that's not good enough for them. They want to get surgery. They want to get bottom surgery, even though that never ends well. It never, ever ends well. They share photos with each other, and that should be off-putting, but that doesn't discourage them. They still want the surgery, even though they know what it looks like, and they know about the aftercare, and they want to go to a third world. I've heard that, I can't remember the name of the country, it's like Southeast Asia or something. The common people are very, I guess what first worlders would probably consider poor, which is some very bad thinking actually. We're really brainwashed, and that's a different topic, so I think I'll save that one for later. But also I can't say a whole lot because I have not visited these countries and I don't know these people, but there really is something to the rustic and primitive way of life that is better, I'm sure. I'm just speculating. But anyhow, the main thing is, in these countries, a lot of the people, well, they're poor by American standards, but a lot of them are so obsessed with money that they will steal. So there's some crazy, greedy, money-obsessed people over there, too, that will resort to crime, and they'll kill each other over a stolen TV. Well, that's an extreme case, but... And then there's these, state-of-the-art, shining, glistening surgery centers, these medical centers specifically for genital surgery. And they have, really highly trained staff that probably went to a first world country to get their training, and then they went back to their home country and made these state-of-the-art, amazing surgery centers. And, yeah, I don't know a whole lot. I'm just repeating things that I've heard. And because of what happens when you get that kind of surgery, obviously, the people who got the surgery will end up killing themselves because of just the sheer amount of pain, the never-ending pain, the stitches breaking, the infection. If they didn't kill themselves, the infection would have done it. They were going to die at that point anyhow. And that doesn't stop their peers from wanting the surgery. They just want it, and you can't talk them out of it. They see the photos, they know that their friends are dying, and they still want the surgery. Nothing will put them off. They're angry if there's a travel ban. They're angry that they can't go get the surgery. Yeah, but again, that's not really our problem. I guess more on peer pressure, and I guess in a little more of a broad way of thinking about it, just being influenced, I guess, is a good way to put it. Well, the popular kids at school, you remember them, and they really were just put into that position. They weren't popular in an organic way. They were forced popular, and they're all allies of each other. Again, I can only speculate on how that works, but whatever. Well, okay, I don't know what actual men and real boys are like due to the fact that when I say you're more likely to find a chicken with teeth, I'm not joking. You're more likely to find a chicken with teeth. That's literal. But girls are very prone to peer pressure. Girls are highly social, and castrati are very fake social. You'll remember that they would force themselves to act all buddy-buddy. They would force themselves to go to the bathroom in groups of 5 and talk about who knows what. And then they would, get into a fight and start clawing at each other, trying to yank each other's hair out in huge clumps. They would punch each other. If you've ever seen a wild strat fight, if you've ever seen that in the wild, it's pretty fun to watch, actually. They're brutal. It's not like wrestling, which is, fake and gay, but like the real thing where they're really going at it, and you don't want to root for either of them. You just want them both to, get really messed up real bad. But anyhow, yeah, that really goes to show that their friendship is completely fake. It's a show. But you ever hear those stories about TV shows or musical groups where the members all actually hate each other? Yeah. So this is a real life version of that. Girls might get into a fight sometimes, but usually we'd sort it out. We prefer to get along. We're more inclined to get along. And, well, we wanted to be popular and have that social currency and be socially rich and be in esteem and all that stuff. And the popular kids would just tell us to shut up and we're stupid and they would imply that maybe there is a way that we could be accepted, but even if we were compliant to the way that they would imply that we'd be accepted, they reject us anyhow, and it was very confusing. But here's the thing, this is the kicker, this is the worst part, that the things that we were told as to why we sucked, we would use that on our girl peers. The fake people would tell us that we sucked, and then the real people would use this against each other, so we would just start fighting. I don't really want to lay out a diagram of exactly how that worked, but I think you might know an event in your life or things that you've seen that would illustrate how that goes. I don't know, maybe I'll try again on that one later. Gotta keep moving, and if something doesn't work right now, maybe it'll work later. Now, another thing about being influenced, which I guess is like peer pressure, only it might not necessarily involve the people in your life, but it's more about being shaped by the things in your life. We're so brainwashed by media that, TV, you know how it is on TV. You see free martins, as you do in real life. You see castrati, which are pretty rare. Maybe I should say fairly uncommon. It probably varies from region to region, but generally castrati, or men that tuck and tape, are a minority, and women are the second largest majority. And free martins are a clear majority. So on TV, you would see women, or you wouldn't see women except for maybe an ugly one in the background for a second, but you would see free martins, which would be normal, as we see them in real life all the time. And then you'd see a really weird amount of castrati, just bizarre amount. We're talking 5% of the population, or they're now 30% of the people on TV. And again, on TV, in media, they pretend that real girls don't exist at all. So it's jarring when you are a child and you're obviously not awake, but you have your instincts in you. And in all of these medias, you would see groups of characters where there would be 3 or 4 guys and one she, her, and that would just be strange. What kind of world do they live in where she, her people are? It's really weird, because I already just said that castrati are a minority, which they are. But, it was mostly in real life about 50-50, maybe 60-40 when it comes to martins and women. There's more dick girls than there are vag girls. That's just life. It's pretty wild, but this is the world we live in. And just seeing the lack of representation of identifiable female characters was very bizarre and strange. It was just so weird. And you probably hear about these semi-kinda-ish reality type shows like House Hunters, or shows where rich people that aren't necessarily TV personalities, although they might have done some acting in high school, will be featured on an episode of House Hunters or something. I don't watch TV, but I'm just repeating stuff again. Everything's fake, so whoever's in charge of the casting and all that would go, okay, these people are married in real life, but this real life married couple that's coming to our show, we don't like this pairing. We are going to pretend that they're married to someone else, and so they'll like get rid of the wife and bring in a castrato and pretend that the castrato is the wife of the Martin being featured on some house hunting show, for example. They go to these weird lengths to keep real women off of TV. Weird lengths. I'm talking like the second biggest majority is not allowed on TV. That is weird. And again, like just seeing a cast of like 3 or 4 he/him characters and all they have one single she/her friend is weird. Because once again, also before age 14 in the earlier grades, it would be pretty easy for a typical girl to get along with free martins until the free martins get initiated and then they have to cut ties with women. And then they're actively encouraged to bash on women and call women fat and ugly. And then what do you know? The free martins can't get a castrato. They have to settle for a real woman, and most real women are trash. So it's pretty sad. I mean, the real women, they're pretty terrible. But I think I better just like not rant, 'cause... well, I will come back later. Alright, this one is about how, looking back, things are just a big letdown and a gut punch, and you take off the rose-tinted glasses, but then all of a sudden these jade glasses fall into your head and you can't take them off. Well, children are very easily impressed, and I'm pretty certain that the reason why we liked things as children that are objectively trash, but we don't want to admit it because it hurts. It hurts us inside. It's like saying you hate your family, but, well, you know how that goes. You know. You have to do tough things, but, well, you have no choice, so you have to do something hard and, get rid of things, you know, because you can't keep it. Even if you want to, you can't. Anyhow, so that is I have all the tangents today. Well, children like any crap that they see, probably, and adults love things that they loved as children because of imprinting. If there is something you're nostalgic for, even if you forgot it, and someone posts a picture of it and you remember, and then you're happy and you love it because you remember, even though you forgot for maybe 20 years, maybe more. Well, that's just imprinting. That's how it is. It's like a glitch. Well, maybe not a glitch, an exploit. You'll notice that the world is full of psychology tricks and exploits. They're going for your emotions. They press your buttons. They're taking advantage of the way people work. They know your psychology, and they're gonna manipulate the hell out of it. Because that's what these sick freaks do. They're liars. They are tares. Satan planted them. Nothing is below them. They're not human. Well, I limit my ranting, but looking back, though, there are things that I made a bigger deal of them in my own mind out of attachment and desperately clinging to something that brought me comfort, and I became very unrealistically minded about it. I would put things on pedestals and act like it was the greatest thing ever and it had no flaws just because something was wrong with me, but it turns out that's a pretty common cope. It's just some people do, like they're avoiding something, and I understand that. Well, I don't know how much I can objectively say or accurately say about anything, whether they got worse or better, because I'm not the biggest consumer of media, and other people have enjoyed a broader range of medias and their opinions would be more solid than mine. But they're not here, so you can't talk to them right now. Sorry, you only have me right now. Well, there's kind of a beauty in emerging new technology, and when something is in its technological infancy and the developers are struggling with it, you have to give them props because they're basically doing the impossible, working with the intangible, getting hands-on with things that you can't touch or feel. And, well, you'll notice that computer people are called wizards. Someone who's good at computers, they're called wizards, and what they do is called magic. I'm sure you can think of examples, and it's one of those things where it looks like a joke or it looks like an allegory, but it's actually straightforward and realistic. Actually, I could probably branch off into more topics with this, if only I would quit forgetting. Well, I'll try and keep these thoughts going. Well, okay, early video games, you would probably be like snowed indoors, and all you would know in your early life would just be a sludgy neighborhood with people your mom doesn't want you to talk to, drug addicts, broken down houses you're not allowed to explore because they're full of broken bottles and needles, and there's nefarious activity, and then there's like snowstorms and horrible things or bad weather. And yeah, so you'd probably be indoors consuming media with the bright colors and bouncy music and people that want to hang out with you. And I guess due to imprinting and exposure at a young age, these things might shape the way we think. Like, we might get some self-limiting thinking from playing too many video games. We might start getting weird and unrealistic. Like, we might start getting arbitrary self-limitations going, oh, well, this wouldn't work in video game logic, it might not work in real life. I can't really think of an example right now. I guess it just turns you into viewing people as NPCs and viewing a conversation as a dialogue tree. I don't know. That might be a problem for particular people and young children. It's a very subconscious, tiny thing that worms into your head, and I mean, obviously, no normal person will ever go around saying, oh, they're dialogue trees. I can't say this dialogue option to that person over there. It's not programmed into real life. Like, no one's gonna say that. But I think that maybe that kind of thinking might be in the very back of our head, just kind of buried in there. Because, like, when you're an infant, you don't really remember specific events because you're too busy learning about physics and inertia and the way the world works. And, yeah, I guess you can't remember, so whatever. Well, things like that might shape our expectations. Oh, here's a good example. Quality of life in media. There's, like, how in movies and games, unless it's plot relevant, unless there's a very, very good reason, you do not have to poop. Nobody has a period, and eating food will make you instantly recover. Like, you could have your arm chopped off, and if you just, like, rummage around in the bush and pull out a rotisserie chicken from the bush and you eat it, you grow your arm back. Quality of life things. You don't wait around for hours, or like in Bethesda games where you begin a quest and then you go in, the NPC goes, okay, let's do this quest. I'm gonna wait for you at the temple, and then you just go off and do a bunch of other crap, and like a whole in-game year passes, and that little make-believe calendar in those games will go up higher and higher until you're like in second seed year 3000 or something. And then you go back to the temple that you forgot about, and there's the NPC, and he's like, yo, you ready to do the thing? And it's like, the NPC was there for like a bunch of in-game years, and he's acting like you just talked to him yesterday. Wouldn't that be cool if it was real? Like, that's quality of life. And it's so refined in these stories, these interactive stories, where time doesn't matter, or if it's one of those games where a day passes in 5 minutes, that's stupid, but again, like, just because a day is 5 minutes long in some primitive game doesn't mean that an NPC is gonna get mad at you for making him wait, Like, time just doesn't matter in these games, and you can, like, fast travel, or ride on some cool dragon, or have a cool horse that can jump 100 feet in the air or something. What am I even talking about? I'm rambling for no reason. This is my talk and I can do what I want. Except I can't say certain bad words. But anyhow. Well, just exposure to these things at a very, very early age can shape our expectations. How many of you might be embarrassed to remember that, like, say, if you're very young when the Pokemon craze was big, you might have considered or pondered dogfighting and cockfighting? My peers and I did have these passing thoughts like, well, Pokemon's really cool and awesome, but it's not physically real. Is there any merit to dogfighting? Like, you shouldn't be thinking these thoughts. You shouldn't. So, these quality of life aspects of media with the time compression, and there's no waiting around, or if you do crap off for a whole year, the NPC doesn't care. He's just gonna wait at the temple, faithfully, waiting for you, always remembering, and always ready to go. Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool? Well, something, I don't even care anymore. Like, I'm just rambling, I lost my place, I don't care, so maybe I'll release this because why not? I have nothing better to do. I'll try again some other time.